It's been a traumatic transfer window for Liverpool so far, with not one but two big money midfield deals falling through. Reds legend Jamie Carragher has labelled it a mess. So what do they need to do to salvage their summer? Let's start by looking at what Liverpool could have won. They took even Chelsea by surprise with a British record bid of £100 million for Brighton midfielder Moises Caicedo, seemingly with no real encouragement from the player's side that he was keen to make the move to Anfield. All they actually succeeded in doing was driving up Chelsea's price, eventually Caicedo moving to Stamford Bridge for £115 million. It also had knock-on effects in their pursuit of the Southampton midfielder Romeo Lavia, who followed in Caicedo's footsteps by joining Chelsea instead. talkSPORT understands Lavia felt disrespected by Liverpool turning their attentions to Caicedo, hence his U-turn. It was a costly error, as it turned out. So far this summer, Liverpool have had more midfield departures than arrivals, with Fabinho and Jordan Henderson, rather surprisingly, completing big money moves to Saudi Arabia. The Reds have also lost the experience of James Milner, Naby Keita and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, whose contract expired. In fairness to Liverpool, they acted very early to get Alexis McAllister signed from Brighton, and he was quickly followed by Dominik Szoboszlai, the talented midfielder from RB Leipzig. They've also added Wataru Endo, a veteran Japanese international who on the face of it doesn't really seem to fit the profile that Jurgen Klopp was going for this summer. When Klopp announced at the end of last season he was planning a midfield rebuild, he was looking for young up-and-coming players like Lavia and like McAllister. At 30 years of age, clearly Endo is far removed from that. He's also spent the peak of his career in the Bundesliga, and we've got history of players coming from Germany not necessarily being able to make the step up to the Premier League. Just ask Timo Werner. It does leave them short-handed in midfield, so who does Jurgen Klopp still want to sign between now and September the 1st? Let's look at the Premier League options for starters, and we'll kick off with João Paulinho, the combative Fulham midfielder who made more tackles than any other player in the Premier League last season. But with a £60 million minimum price tag and at the age of 28, this is not necessarily a signing that ticks too many of Liverpool's boxes. Then there's Cheick Doucouré at Crystal Palace, another player that Jurgen Klopp is a big admirer of. But Palace have already shown their strength in keeping hold of key players this summer, as Michael Olise snubbed a mega money move to Chelsea to sign a new deal at Selhurst Park, and they don't want Doucouré to leave. Steve Parish, the owner at Palace, has said it would take huge money to prize him away, probably more money than Liverpool are willing to throw at him. The other intriguing name from the Premier League is that of Calvin Phillips, a player who's been on Liverpool's radar in the recent past and who just isn't getting game time at Manchester City. Yes, he's got all kinds of medals around his neck, but surely in a European Championship season, he has to be playing regular first-team football. City paid £50 million to sign Phillips from Leeds on the back of a really good European Championship with England, but we know Liverpool have the money to spend. After all, they were willing to pay more than £110 million for Moises Caicedo and £60 million for Lavia. I think this is one to keep a real eye on between now and the window closing. Time now to turn our attentions to the European market. One player who's been heavily linked with Liverpool in recent days is the Bayern Munich midfielder Ryan Gravenberch, another player that Jurgen Klopp knows well from the Bundesliga and who by all accounts is looking for a move as he goes in search of regular playing time. They could face competition though from Manchester United, and Bayern aren't desperate to sell Gravenberch unless they can source a replacement. One other name to keep an eye on is Sofian Amrabat, the midfielder from Fiorentina who did so well for Morocco as they made it all the way through to the World Cup semi-finals. Manchester United have been in conversation with his advisors all summer, but as they struggle to shift big earners on, that move hasn't really developed. It could offer Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp the opportunity to steal a march on their rivals. This wouldn't be a particularly expensive deal to do, certainly cheaper than those Premier League options. I'd imagine if Liverpool could offer around £35 to £40 million, Fiorentina would be very tempted for a player who clearly wants to move. Finally, let's hop on the plane to South America. One player whose name emerged just when Liverpool were trying to pressure Southampton into accepting a low fee for Romeo Lavia was the Fluminense midfielder Andre. This would be a big gamble for a player who's never even played in Europe, let alone the Premier League. He is a defensive midfielder, but he's not particularly strong or physical. At just 22 years of age, clearly there is growing potential, and he would only cost around 20 million euros, so would be a budget option, but having already signed Endo as a risk, I think this is probably unlikely. So there's a fairly detailed list of potential targets for Liverpool between now and September the 1st when the transfer window slams shut. But who would you like Jurgen Klopp to bring to Anfield? Let us know in the comments below.